technical difficulties. My camera doesn't seem to be working, but regardless, we can. Nobody needs to see my face anyway, so.
True that.
So I see that essentially the House Republicans basically punted on doing anything about Marjorie Taylor Greene and her conspiracy theories.
Yeah, they just said that they weren't going to remove her from any of her committee chairmanships or whatever.
Of course not.
That's what they were looking at, correct?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's going to happen, but they're not going to do it. Yeah.
Right.
But it sounds like they had a meeting today. One of the issues was Liz Cheney, and the other issue was, talking about Representative Greene. Apparently, Representative Greene got a standing ovation from like half the caucus, which.
Not shocked.
If that is like the
not shocked.
Perfect representation of like how screwed this party is going forward, that Liz Cheney is under fire more than Representative Greene for this whole situation is mind-boggling, to say the least.
Yeah. To say the least. Yeah, I mean, the lady is absolutely crazy.
Hey, man, I don't know. Harassing a freaking 18-year-old that just went through a school shooting seems rational to me.
Yeah, it seems like a thing normal people would do. But, I mean, what do I know,
Hey, you're just not woke to the freaking, the conspiracies.
I mean, what can even be done about her, though?
Well, the same thing they did with Stephen King, basically make it known to her district that she is a worthless representative by taking away all of her committee chairs, which could backfire. You could make her like a martyr to those people, but I mean, either way, you get her from having anything more than a vote on bills. I mean, you're taking her away from, the 5 minutes that, you get to question, people testifying in front of Congress, which, getting that TV time's a big deal. So
I'm just curious as to how much, like, the people that put her there actually would care about that,
It worked against Steve King. I mean, basically what you're going to do is you're basically going to open it up to any Republican in that district to run against her and basically say, like, I can actually do something for this district. I don't know.
I'm just saying how much that what she's done actually matters to those people, as if they didn't already know that she was who she was.
I mean, there's a good chance that they don't know. I mean,
or that they don't agree with some of the stuff that she's done. More like,
here's the thing. This is probably the most likely issue of what happened was Trump, gave her a microphone and said, hey, it's okay to say all this stuff. And it probably led to her being right of the representative that was already representing that district. She probably won a close primary and blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, the party can come back and primary her with a good candidate and beat her, I bet.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, what do you define as a good candidate?
I mean, you'll have to find one. I mean, if the party wants to find one, I mean,
maybe that's the thing. Why, like, maybe she's the good candidate. That's what I'm getting. Yeah, like, I mean,
well,
if none of the things that have come out about her, I mean, and I guess, once you see all like the Facebook groups, of course she's a Facebook group mod for all these crazy stuff. So like once you see all that stuff come out, like I feel like most people have done the math that they could at least imagine her being in that position of, that crazy. Because I mean, I don't know. Doesn't seem like she has moved, I don't know, surprised us too much with what she's done. I mean, she's come in as a QAnon person, so some of the stuff is already kind of baked into the cake. Like, she's probably a loon.
Here's the thing that probably ends up happening is a lot of that district probably doesn't accept what general reality is. They're probably listening to conservative media that's not reporting on how crazy she is. So they probably don't have a good representation going into election day of how like dangerous she was, especially primary day. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see what the district thinks of her after a couple, 2-year terms. And I mean, I just find it hard to believe that has so much. Like I get like the Representative Boebert thing where like, oh, guns, yeah, like let's do this. But I mean, there's a whole different like aspect of it when you're the Patriot Party and you're supporting somebody that's like, oh, 9/11 was an inside job. Like that's a pretty hard avenue to like go. But then also say that Muslims were like, dangerous attackees of the United States. I mean, you kind of have to play a little, hopscotch there to make sense of all
it. I think you'd be surprised.
I'm not surprised.
I think you'd be surprised how all of those things can be true and still vote the way people do.
Yeah, I've lost faith in a lot. So.
Well, I mean, I mean, maybe it's possible that, but who knows? But I mean, do you think, like, she can't keep this up, right? Like, forever, can she?
Why wouldn't she?
I mean,
that's the other part of it. Like, you talk about not getting the TV time. Like, there's always Fox. I mean, Fox is always there.
Yeah, but I mean, here, I'll give my example of like Representative Porter from California. Like, nobody knew who she was until there was those like, bits about her just annihilating people in, committee hearings. So like,
well, she lost her committee.
Not having those opportunities to have TV time makes a difference. I mean, whether she lost her committee or not, that's not what I'm debating. But yeah.
No, I hear you. I mean, they definitely can be. They definitely can be useful.
Of course, with her, it might be useful for Democrats to let her have 5 minutes.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the other part. Yeah. You have to know how to use that kind of time efficiently. You can't be a psycho in there.
No, it seems to work with Representative Gohmert.
That guy is a nut job too. What did you guys make of McConnell? I think it was pretty expected. Romney coming out and speaking out against Greene wasn't really all that surprising, but McConnell I found was kind of surprising a little bit.
Me and Borg being on the same page with the two Spider-Mans pointing at each other were just freaking fantastic. Who the hell is Mitch McConnell to call anybody like a cancer to American politics? Like, get out of here, you freaking kook.
Fair. That's fair.
No, Kyle, you said many years ago about self-awareness with me. That is a serious lack of self-awareness for Mitch McConnell to go in front of the nation and say something stupid like that.
I think it also kind of shows like the different dynamics between people in the House who more or less still support her versus people who have to run it statewide elections like senators do.
Yeah, well, I mean, the House has always been known as that, as like you have people that don't have to worry about an election, and really the only thing they have to worry about is somebody coming in and being more radical than them. So,
well, that's why it's so like, okay, yeah, good for you guys. Yeah, you guys can denounce that, but you don't even need to worry about the people that vote for her, really. Like, they're just going to turn out for you anyway because they hate Democrats. So,
yeah, I mean, it represents what we're talking about, Representative Greene, by saying, like, there's no chance. I mean, right now, I don't think there's any chance of, like, a Democrat coming into that district and winning. Like,
right.
It was the same thing with Steve King when Steve King kept winning. It ended up being they were running good candidates against King, and like J.D. Scholten. They were running him, really good solid progressive candidate, and
yeah, Steve King eventually had he like went to fucking Auschwitz or something. Like, I think the fact that guy was in the House for so long is just insane.
Have you ever been to Northwest Iowa?
No, I've driven through it. Yeah, I haven't been there, but I can imagine.
Not all that surprising.
Sorry, guys, I'm just diddling around with my camera here, trying to get it to turn on. But anyway, yeah, the self-awareness thing that's so on the money though with McConnell. Like, I mean, it's good that he said something, but like, I mean, you are the one who created the environment for this to exist in the first place. So, yeah, it's comical to say the least. But
I'll take a comment from AOC this week and basically apply it to what McConnell said. You need to set this one out, Mitch.
Yeah, not a bad idea, honestly. But who knows?
What was it?
What else is going on today? Stock market it's like reaching a new high, isn't it? Or pretty close to it.
Yesterday was a big day. Today really wasn't much.
Today was pretty mellow, wasn't it? Excuse me, sorry.
Yeah, I think Google had a good earnings report or something, from what I heard. No, but what I was listening to that was pretty much making my blood boil was on IPR. They were talking about the Capitol extremists and how to deal with domestic terrorism. They were talking to a former CIA officer and what to do. And he was talking about some of the stuff that they did in Iraq and Afghanistan. And it was just, I don't know. Like it almost seemed too comical to see like, oh yeah, this is how we tamp down insurgency in like two countries that are still racked by insurgency. So I don't know.
I don't think fighting. I don't think you know. How do I put this? I don't think like aggressively physically trying to counter insurgency is the best way to beat back extremism. I mean, it's not like you're going to do anything but escalate the problem by, you know, talking to CIA agents.
Yeah, it's
Here, how about this? Let's start investing in public education so we don't have morons growing up to be stupid.
Well, I mean, that's just silly.
Oh God, why would we invest in like the people? Let's invest in
yeah. There's like
invest
one answer I was waiting for him to say, and it was like, oh yeah, we just address like the root causes and like like the legitimate grievances of people, like the legitimate terrorism, and then like B, like what are the root causes of it? We deal with that. Not, oh yeah, we just increase our level of surveillance and law enforcement against these people. That just, yeah.
one of the most ironic things about it is like the lead up to the Trump presidency, the whole thing the Republicans were running on was, you know, Obama won't say radical Islamic terrorism, and you know, if you don't call it out for what it is, like it'll just keep happening. And then like the party that argued this is not calling out what's happening in their own party.
It's like we have examples of instances of not necessarily domestic terrorism, but kind of domestic terrorism with like Northern Ireland. What was done there? Oh, they came to an agreement and addressed like the grievances of the people who had issues there, and you know, there's no longer car bombs going off there. Like, okay, if that's what we're gonna talk about, and we're gonna call these people terrorists, like, then what are their grievances with what's going on right now? That's what I'm curious about.
Well, how do you address like what their grievances are? Because their grievances, like with like Northern Ireland, like.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if these people are truly terrorists and they have like some sort of goal, or are they just like, you know, people that are clearly misguided in what they think was possible or what was going on? That's why you bring, you know, a CIA officer on here to talk about these people as terrorists, because that's why I'm not sure like if they like terrorist is the right word for these people. Because if that's truly the case, then like, okay, like how do you create less people address like that are I don't know, infatuated with like the person of Donald Trump that they'll go into invade a congressional building for him? What is the grievance to be addressed with these people?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't think that there has to be a rational agreement to be had to call them terrorists. I mean, they're pretty much people that are using violence to, you know, intimidate or alter people's political positions. I mean, that's pretty much the definition of terrorism. But I don't know how you get to their grievances, because a lot of their grievances are just like not based in reality. Like, I mean, one of the biggest issue that they're fighting with, that they, you know, launched their recent terrorist attack about, is that they got cheated out of an election, which I don't know how you come to an agreement on how to fix that. I mean, I don't know.
Well, yeah, now, that is the problem. So what do you do? Like whatever we have been doing hasn't been working. So I don't know. It just seems foolhardy to proceed to, oh yeah, we need new terrorism laws for domestic terrorism.
Well, hey, we'll just need a new, crime bill to, just lock them all up. Since that worked so great the last time. No, I don't know. This is
Well, it's like these
a great question.
these groups kind of operate in the open in this country not to a huge extent, but like, they're not, we know who these people are to a certain degree. So it kind of begs the question of, given the current powers of, the people who would look at domestic terrorism, how can you justify them not having all those powers and then still not being able to prevent this, capital insurrection, like whatever you want to call it, capital takeover?
Sure.
It seems tough to me to justify, oh yeah, we need to give these people more power when they already have insane amounts of reach and access to, social media sites and whatnot. I mean, the fact that Parler literally got shut down, like from anything would host it or not, just got shut down is kind of an insane thing to even think about. But, we kind of agree why it happened, but to the extent that you can just, certain companies have the ability to just shut off websites for moderation or lack thereof, I should say, by violating their, agreement of terms of services. That's kind of a interesting area that we've crossed over to with that whole incident. So yeah, really, really tough issue, I think.
Destroy the leadership. It's where the misguided our field. Huh. Well, yeah, I think big issue of the last 30 years is terrible leadership and terrible messaging by one party, but I have a feeling, just knowing by talking to people, that they view it as it's both parties. But I think this all goes back to a lot of, about education, income inequality, and just the societal issues that get brought by all this. And we've been saying for years, one of my biggest policy issues with our government is that we do not spend proper money with education and teaching people how to think instead of just teaching them towards a test. So it comes back and rears its ugly head when people are taught to just read something and accept it as fact instead of going through logical thought processes. So I think a lot of it just has to do with the policies of America, to society the last 30 years, and it's just an obvious outcome to a lot of these issues where people are going to get radicalized because they don't have. This is psychology 101 on any radicalization, political movements throughout the world. It all starts with having socioeconomic issues. So this is the same thing that's happened in the Muslim world. It's the same thing that happens in Africa and South America, North America now, is people that don't have anything or many resources to advance their lives get caught up in issues.
Sorry, just still messing around here with this thing. What else is low? Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. What do you guys? What else? Sorry, I'm a little distracted here. Forgive me. At least I'm sparing everybody from having to see my face. So there's that. But anyway, let's see if this works here.
That is working.
You guys can hear me. You guys can hear me now, I'm assuming.
Now it's just an echo.
Say that again, Bork.
You're good now. There was
there
a little echo there. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Okay. Sorry. I'm focused now. Shoot. What else? What else though? What else has been going on today? Or I guess in the last week, 2 weeks since all this. I know some political appointments, some additional ones. Pete was confirmed. Yeah. First
Sworn in today.
Sworn in today. Cool. I like Pete. I'm a fan.
What do you think of Mayor Pete, Bork?
Pete sucks.
Pete sucks, he says.
Mm-hmm.
I did see that Biden basically committed to rejoining or renewing what was the arms deal with Russia, the nuclear arms treaty.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good thing. Speaking of Russia, I know Bork has a big man crush lately on what's his name?
No, that's Joe. Joe loves football.
Did I say Bork? I'm sorry. Yeah, Joe's.
Yeah.
You're on fire, man.
Yeah, sorry. That guy's got some fucking melons on him, man.
Yeah, no, he's kind of forcing the hand of Putin. I mean, we kind of talked about this the other day. I mean, it's kind of crossed the threshold of just killing him off now because I think you're going to have a strong that happen. Yeah, no, dude's got huevos.
Huevos. This is a funny one. Did you see that Lynn Wood is under investigation in Georgia now for voter fraud?
Who is?
Lynn Wood, the lunatic Trump attorney.
Yeah.
Also, apparently, like his impeachment defense team, like just quit. Like, I mean, it's not going to matter. He's not going to be convicted in the Senate regardless. But like,
I'm telling you though, if he goes into that impeachment process and starts arguing about the election results,
you think he?
This is what just we won't even get into the policy of this, but just the politics of what this fucking party's doing right now doesn't make any sense. Like, you have an out, your whole caucus is being distracted by lunatics in the House. Like, everybody's okay with, like, I think they have a majority of, or like near probably 90% of their party saying, yep, he's a private citizen, this is stupid, this is a waste of time. You have an out. Go in there, go into the freaking impeachment process, say, this is stupid, blah, 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 I didn't tell him to go to the freaking Capitol and do anything, harm anybody, and just get over with it. But he's going to go into this damn freaking impeachment process talking about freaking election fraud, and it's just going to make him look so bad.
When you say he's going to go into it, like, do you think he's going to testify in this thing?
No, but
but just the case that's going to be.
Those guys didn't just quit to quit. They quit because they couldn't agree with what they wanted to be said.
Yeah, that's fair.
What did Ben say?
What do you guys think the main legislative focus will be for the next 2 years? I mean, COVID, I think, obviously, is the.
This is, I heard somebody, I think it was on Pod Saves America. I think it might have been Vitor, but it's so frustrating that the last 2 times we've had a Democratic president, they've had to come in and take care of like a freaking crisis so that we can't get a Democratic legislative focus, agenda together, which is so frustrating. I mean,
well, yeah, but it's part of the genius of what Republicans do, because they just essentially are just so reckless with their policy that, I mean, it worked for them last time. I mean, just by the time it's truly broken, it's going to be the next guy's problem, and then we'll get to spend the next 8 years talking about how they aren't fixing it quick enough, and how we're the answer, even though we're the ones that broke it in the first place. So, I mean,
besides COVID, I think infrastructure would be a thing.
Wait, Trump never got around to infrastructure?
No. Worked as well as you trying to fix your camera.
Yeah. Got to work around here.
Then I think they'll make another attempt at solidifying Obamacare or solidifying it. What else? I think there'll be a big move on decriminalization of marijuana and maybe even other drugs. So Mexico building the wall in the next. Yeah, they're going to pay for it. Biden will take care of it. They'll pay for it.
Yeah, I mean,
anything else that you think of?
Yeah, I think those are probably the big ones. I don't know. I can't really think of anything else that I think will be I mean, there's such little time. I mean, over the next 2 years. I don't know.
Do you think there'll be anything on immigration?
Yeah, I guess that's the other one. I mean, I don't know if there will be, but I guess that's one of the other areas where they can try and work something out. I just don't see Republicans playing ball on it at all. I
think it's going to depend on how much they can grow the Senate lead in 2022 and 2024, and if Biden's reelected. They're going to waste a lot of political capital with COVID. I mean, you can already see it; like it's already driving a wedge in the whole system already. So,
yeah, this would be an interesting one to hear from Ben about. I think he might have some opinions on this, but I mean, they've already started making some moves with whether it be the Green New Deal or the pipeline or the oil on public lands and Texas and New Mexico and places like that. So I mean, it seems like they're trying to make. I mean, maybe not the Green New Deal, but they're trying to make a move towards more sustainable energy. I don't know how. Yeah, like you said, there's only so much political capital. I'm not sure if that's going to be one of the areas where they're going to end up really pushing too hard.
I actually disagree with that. Now that you bring it up, I'm glad you brought up climate change. If you look in the exit polls and the hard data of what came out of 2020, besides COVID, obviously COVID was a big help for Biden, but I think climate change was the second most identified agenda item by Democrats on the reasons they were voting for Biden. So I think if the Biden team is smart, they need to deliver on that because I think, especially with like our generation, like in 4 years and 8 years, I think that's going to be a huge plus if they can corral, obvious change on climate change.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good point. That would be awesome. I think that'd be really, really good. What do you think? So with COVID, obviously, a lot of states changed up how people were able to vote, which I mean, I think is a good thing. do you like? First of all, stuff the voting structure for a lot of these states, like I think it's Colorado's been doing it this way for like 10 years already. So like there's precedence to just keep it this way. Do you think a lot of states are going to keep with mail-in voting being like a huge way of voting in elections, or do you think their states are going to go back to more? Nah, if you're able to, you have to vote in person.
Or
I think if they're able to, they'll roll it back personally, but it's really dependent. It's really dependent on the composition of the state's legislature, I would say, more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. I mean, you could probably guess which states will try and roll it back, and which states will probably try and expand on.
It's really incredible that in the 21st century, this is like such a boomer like take of, hey, we can't vote by mail. Like, goddamn, like we should be voting by internet. Like,
Yeah,
like that's a little exaggeration because you would have some pretty serious security risks. But like, why is this like such an issue? Like, voting by mail is done pretty much in every state. I voted by mail the last, last 3 elections, federal elections. Donald Trump voted by mail the last 3 freaking federal elections. So, like, what's the big damn deal?
I mean, well, do you like? I mean, the big deal is that if we're being honest, it's that the more people you allow to vote, the worse it is for a certain party. So, I mean, they obviously won't say that, but can prostate away specific to Keystone and small rules like drilling on public land? How effective can it be? The free market has made the Tesla. Can it bring us into the future?
The free market did not make Tesla. let's be honest about that first. Tesla, SpaceX, all the Elon Musk type,
How reliant was Tesla on government subsidies when they
started? My God, they're getting hundreds of billions of dollars. I mean, the tent of what Elon Musk like owns with SpaceX. We'll put it on SpaceX and Tesla. Like he was receiving like hundreds of billions of dollars in incentives. So, I mean, not attacking you, Ben. That seems like you came back with saying that you knew they were getting a lot of incentives, but I just wanted to correct the free market did not make Tesla.
Yeah, I mean, the energy thing is, I do find the energy thing interesting because I'm not entirely sure what, like on one hand, it seems like for the long-term health of the planet, like, I mean, there needs to be a shift towards more sustainable forms of energy, but also I'm not sure I mean, maybe it's because we haven't made it a priority yet, but like I'm not sure that we can, and I'm not entirely sure that anybody's really asking for this, but I'm not sure that we can just kind of completely move to all renewable energy. I mean, certainly can't right now, but even soon, maybe we can. I don't know if we put some effort towards it, but yeah, I mean, yeah, how do we, I don't know. That's a good question. What do you guys think? You guys have any thoughts?
I mean, you have to. I mean, I have no problem with subsidizing green energy, but you have to have 2 parties play ball on that. I mean, you can't ask for, to find new ways to create clean green energy, and then argue about that we're subsidizing certain businesses incorrectly, and the government can't handle spending this much money. Well, yeah, it can, because the countries that are going to be on the front line of the green revolution are going to have amazing job markets. So
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing too. Is like I feel like every election, people talk about, like, they always talk about West Virginia and like trying to take away like the coal miners' jobs, as if like coal mining makes up like a huge chunk of the West Virginia like workforce, and that's just not true. Like there aren't that many coal miners left. Like I mean, in general, like there's just not. At least in West Virginia, there's not. So
I think that question's kind of conflating politics and reality.
Yeah.
Like there's history, and there's like just like there's not a lot of these union factory jobs left. I mean, but being pro middle class is a big political stamp of approval. So yeah, I agree. The West Virginia coal mine thing is a little overrated, but there's hard data showing that it's changed a lot of votes in West Virginia. West Virginia used to be a pretty reliable Democratic state until Al Gore. So
that's true. Yeah, I mean that's a good point. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that the three of us would probably agree that, and this is just the difference in political ideology is I think the three of us would, I think we would probably make the case that there probably are quite a few levers that you can pull legislatively to move these things along in a way that is going to be more beneficial for everybody than just leaving it up to the free market entirely. And not that it's left up to the free market entirely right now, but yeah, I mean the free market certainly has its place in my view, but it's just not. I don't think I don't know. I'm not the beat the drums for the free market crowd that thinks it's this amazing like the free market. I don't know. I'm kind of. I don't want to sound like I'm bashing capitalism, the free market. Like I think it's done great things, but it's also, I think, legislatively it can be helped along more often than what it probably is.
It can be reined in.
Yeah. I mean, look at these. Go ahead.
This seems like a pretty bread and butter ideology question for Bork. So,
yeah, I would like to kind of hear what Bork thinks if he has any opinions on this stuff.
I mean,
he calls you a communist. Just wait.
I mean, yeah, you could have like a more active government role with it, but like that's like never how our government has ever. Well, not never, but not how our government addresses problems like that anymore. Like this would be a part of the like big infrastructure package that is potentially coming around at some point. And how we always do those are like public-private investment like strategies where someone gives tax breaks to someone to put in like not telephone wire, but like fiber optic cables now would be like the modern equivalent to it. So that's how we would do it now. Like obviously that's not the most efficient because we're currently in the state that we are for like a lot of different reasons. Not one being that we have a pretty active foreign policy revolving around the oil consumption and oil prices in different areas and whatnot. So can't disregard that from the entire equation. On top of that, oil interests, along with controlling that, are pretty powerful in this country that America is also consuming a certain portion of oil just based on the vehicles we use, although we are trending in a direction now that California has lowered their fuel emission standard. Like they've set them more stricter. Like all car companies have to now essentially abide by their standards because California has the strictest standards. Do I think that's the most efficient way to do it? No, I don't at all, because I mean, like that doesn't individual people having individual cars is the problem. That is one fundamental thing that needs to change on top of like major, but that has to come from government expenditure, which again is a political problem for like modern public transportation. Essentially, that's what you would need to really start addressing the problem of climate change. As far as like emerging markets go, like, I mean, yeah, you would hope the goal would be to transition them from industrial economies where they are producing insane amounts of like just heavy industry air pollution over to like more post-industrial economies. Now, I mean, that would entail building up potential quote unquote American enemies to do that. So then you run into that potential, that political problem of we're transitioning China's economy away from being, less industrial, less heavy industry to, I mean, China's already on the way there right now, but still that's the other issue you start running into. So I don't know. The emerging markets question is like, obviously that's like, because those are the countries that are going to suffer the most. Like, well, not necessarily them, but like the even poorer countries are going to be the ones that really suffer the brunt of climate change, who are by and large not the big producers of carbon. Like, it's not that China gets to cheat. It's that those like all of the more wealthier countries have the resources to more or less handle climate change and the effects of it. Bangladesh doesn't, and nor do they produce the amount of carbon that contributes to the problem. So what do you do about that?
That's a good point. I mean,
there's like, you're right. It is a lot of things to take into account for. I mean, yeah, like the meme about the Virginia coal miners is kind of like, we were way beyond that. There's just so many other factors that goes into the kind of decisions that you have to really start making to start looking at this problem in a way to seriously address it, instead of like, everybody just drives an electric car. It's like, okay, so like we're going to need like an insane amount of rare earth minerals, which if you want to, you don't need to look too far into how most of the world gets its rare earth minerals, and you're not going to like what you find and how those things are mined out of the earth. So yeah, that's another question that needs to be addressed at some point. So it's not a question that I'm prepared to say that I have an answer for, but
I think a bigger thing, and you have to look at a whole scale thing, and this might get a little wonky, so try to hear me out. But like throughout history, like the role of government has always been like more foreign policy based, and you can see that in like the writings of like America's origins, like with leadership having direct foreign policy control, and the underlings or the representatives having budget control. But I think we're really going into a new time where government's kind of getting into like the social, or has to start leading on the social aspects. So you really like, I think all these arguments that we're getting into politically nowadays is just the role of the government. And to tie it back into kind of what I'm catching from Ben's whole discussion here is like, there's a serious question on energy, and more like, finite to what Ben's talking about, transportation. Like, a great example is people are mad in Illinois because of car taxes or gas taxes and everything. That whole initiative is to drive down like private ownership of vehicles, and to, because cars and our transportation systems right now are not good for the environment. So we have to find ways to incentivize public transit. And the question of where we're going to go with that is long-winded and a serious question on what we want the government to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. Like the gas tax thing in Illinois, I think is particularly interesting because I mean, I think it's encouraging people to drive less or have less vehicles is great, but I mean, I think if you're gonna do that, don't you already have to have an alternative solution for people? Like if you're gonna, I mean,
well, I mean, coming from the Quad Cities, we've been debating on freaking transportation to Chicago in a meaningful way for 40 years now. I mean,
right? Yeah, I mean,
so yeah, we need to start investing in clean energy. Clean trains. Driving down private transportation like cars and
it also probably wouldn't hurt and would probably make it a little more easy for folks in Illinois to swallow if the person approving this legislation also it doesn't own a private jet too. So I mean I think that also plays a part into it. Like, I mean, it's the same thing right now in the news with John Kerry. You can't make an argument. Like it's 40 times more. It's 40 times worse per person flying a private jet than flying commercial. Like,
I agree, it's a problem. I agree.
It's not the biggest problem. I'm just saying
we need
that big of an issue. Like you would think that Pritzker would say, okay, I'm not going to fly private anymore. Then, if it's really that big of a problem, like he'll just fly commercial, like most other people.
We really need to start coming up with some solutions before we start attacking people for flying private jets. I mean,
okay, I agree, but like, then shouldn't we be coming up with solutions before we start penalizing people for driving their vehicles?
Yeah, that is a solution, though. It's not penalizing. It's not penalizing them.
But not when there's no.
Okay.
Now there's not an alternative for them. Like
it's two things kind of here. So like one,
that is the change that you're trying to do.
The choices of individual people is like drops in the bucket. Like it's not people, it's like corporations that produce most of the pollution. So like that's like where the heart of the problem really is. So what we're talking about is more or less a smaller fraction of the overall problem. That aside, like the gas tax shit is kind of bullshit. I will 100% agree with that. Like, make it if that's how you're gonna do it, at least make it affordable to live in a city. Can we do that? Like, because if you're not gonna let us live within walking distance or public transportation distances of the places that we work, where most jobs now happen to be in well-populated areas, where the big appeal of all these places, the good cities that people want to live now, are affordability. So, if you're gonna do it that way, then okay, then really go after it. Don't punish people by, okay, you have to drive to work now. Okay, now you just have to pay money for your commute that you just have to make because you can't afford to live in the city. And, now you're paying extra money because you have to drive that extra distance. I mean, it's just, and you're not really addressing the cause because, the electric vehicles, not everybody can switch over to electric vehicle right off the bat. That's going to be a process unless you're going to subsidize those to the hill.
Yeah. I mean, how does somebody living in Comanche, Iowa, fuel up their Tesla car? Like,
well, that's kind of like that's what France did. Like if you like kind of followed their their yellow vest protests, aside from like their pension reform system, is that they like implemented this gas tax to to one of the things that they were going to do to try and help themselves in compliance with the Paris Climate Accord. And sure enough, it spawned a shitstorm because that's just what the French do, because they use any excuse to go out and march in the streets. But that's France isn't exactly like the United States, but it is a pretty rural country, and people drive a lot to make a living. So a gas tax on them without any sort of compense to help ease that burden.
And for the record, I'm not against
a big difference on that, and something that we should be incentivizing is we need to replan cities. And it's no coincidence in like you take even from the Quad Cities, like it's no coincidence that the thriving municipalities are places that are having better city planning. The whole instance about Comanche, Iowa, like the gas tax, which this is pretty loaded coming from me, a person that owns a truck, but like the gas tax is supposed to incentivize you on buying cars that don't depend on
use less gas, right? Yeah.
So I agree with you. It is what the government's trying to do is they're trying to incentivize people to use products or use energy that is better for the environment and more energy saving. I'm not getting the right terminology, I know there, but it's a very broad issue. The reason I was talking about transportation in particular was it was something that Ben brought up. So I'm not saying that that's the only thing we need to do.
No, I'm with and for the record,
sports right.
No, I'm not. Yeah,
corporations are the reason, like the biggest thing, but the John Kerry attack, which seems like it's gotten so much freaking news, like
I feel like I haven't seen that at all, really. But
let's draw back a little bit on talking about what John Kerry does. And let's try to have meaningful legislation and policy that attacks the real problem before we start attacking people.
No, I agree. And for the record, I don't oppose the gas tax. I'm just saying before you implement the gas tax, have a system in place that provides people with an alternative besides driving their cars. Like
fuel efficient cars.
Yeah, that's fine. And they
subsidizing Tesla.
Yeah, but if we want to do that even more, put in a more accessible public transportation system. For the John Kerry thing, like
I 100% agree.
Like I'm not like obviously John Kerry by himself is not like really that big of an issue in this thing. Probably not really an issue at all. Like he's one person. It's just if you're going to be the climate czar, like it's a little like. It's a little difficult to take you seriously, and then if you're like flying everywhere in a private jet, like, and you're going to then lecture people, like,
Well, if you're going to Scandinavia, how are you going to, with somebody that needs the resources he needs, how are you getting to Scandinavia without flying?
No, him for the job. That's what this was talking about him as a private citizen because he's married to the freaking was the Heinz family, right? The like super, super wealthy, like they all fly, they have their private jets.
Well, to just be honest, he's plenty wealthy by himself.
Well, yeah, by himself too. But I'm just, like it's just this was, I was reading it wrong, but I don't think it was about in his official capacity. Like, yeah, politicians are going to fly it private. I would, also with all of us saying all this stuff, like if you offered to let me fly somewhere in a private jet tomorrow, I would say absolutely, like let's go. But that's just because I'm selfish.
Like just going back to like talking about the Quad City area, like a city like Beddorf has reaped healthy rewards from actually having modern city planning and giving people access to transportation and modes of transportation that aren't driving exclusive, which, this is going to be 40, 50 years of worth of different infrastructure bills to change, but like countrywide. But let's start fucking investing in it, please. Like, because it can make a difference. Like,
I mean, I talked to friends who have been to China and like Shanghai, and like they're just like absolutely mind blown. Like these are people that have like been to New York City. And if you've ever been to New York City, like the first time I've been to New York City, it was it's still the most incredible place I've ever seen. It absolutely blew my mind. And I have friends that have been to Shanghai and Tokyo, and and some of these other big cities in China and Japan, and like they're just like, I mean, it's amazing. Like it's like we thought New York City was cool. Like these places are so modern and they're so efficient in how they designed everything that like we're just, I mean, and granted it's different. They were developing, but yeah, no, that's so true, Ben. Like it's that's the biggest. I mean, I think the big hurdle for a lot of these things is that it's like independence is so much a part of like the American DNA of like, like we're not gonna, whether it be COVID and people not wanting to do, that's my freedom and I want to be a free person, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, exactly. That's why COVID is so bad. Like, or whether it be, not having your F-350 and then driving something that's more fuel efficient. Like it's, well, I don't want to because I live in a free country and I should be able to have what I want to have. Fine, but like it's not very prudent. Like,
I mean, just an example, and I'm not attacking you here, Kyle, on this, but like just your paradigm perception of like it's not hard for somebody to have a home charger for Tesla, like a Tesla vehicle. It's not hard, like at all. And Beddorf, once again, bringing it up, has multiple like Tesla charging stations. So like, it's not really hard to get this all really moving. It's what you guys are talking about. It's everybody wants, and I'm guilty of this. I have a brand new truck. So, but if you really want to start incentivizing this, like we need policy that like makes these changes.
You didn't buy used?
No.
Wow, I would have taken Frugal Joe to buy a used truck, and I'm impressed.
Hey, do you really want to get into this? Because it's 10 times more practical to just take the $13,000 extra dollars and hold on to a truck for 250,000 miles if you take care of it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was in this camp. My car's paid off in like 3 months, and I was like, up until a few months ago, I have been like for the last year, like, okay, what am I gonna buy next when my car is paid off? And now I'm like, I'm gonna be so excited not have a fucking car payment anymore that I'm just gonna drive this thing until the damn wheels fall off.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's people attack like the unaffordability of trucks. Like, really, if you break down the long-term ROI, they're actually great investments outside of gas.
Yeah,
because there's not a lot of cars that you can buy, and there was actually an article in the Wall Street Journal about this today, I think, about how cheap cars are kind of going away. And really, I mean, trucks last just so much longer than four-banger cars. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, it also, and I mean, I guess in a way too, the cheap car that starts having issues, like serious issues in 100,000 miles, like who is that affecting negatively the most? It's the people that can only afford those cheap cars that then have to buy a new car every so many years. But
anyways, yeah.
Yeah.
But just going on a full scale thing, Bork was right. Like corporations really need to be the starting point on this, and big energy is a huge problem with what we want to do on climate change.
Is like a carbon tax something that's gonna is that a potential?
See, this is when we start arguing politics on real, like visual politics as opposed to like policy politics. Is like a carbon tax is just going to be, railed against as big government, wanting, more tax dollars and infringing on the free market. When really, if you look at the long-term runs of it, like I said earlier, the countries that get ahead of green energy are going to have the best job markets in 50 years.
Yeah, I mean, the free market isn't tackling the issue. So, like,
no.
Doesn't the government have to step in at some point? I mean,
at some point, just like I was talking about government, people need to start coming around on the new age role of government. The government foreign policy paradigm is old thinking. Like, we need to start investing in societal needs. This is why Europe and Scandinavia are so much ahead of the bullshit.
Well, there was a time when America's government believed that.
Yeah. It was just our most productive time too, but
yeah. I mean, I think we agree. Joe hit on that. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of jobs in green energy. The issue, I guess, is how do you convince people that don't work in renewable energy right now that are going to be negatively affected by this, that this is, I mean, I get it. Like, I sympathize with those people. Like, you're trying to just figure out how you're going to provide for your family right now. And so, I mean, going through a whole retraining process and, transitioning, like, I get it. It's not appealing. But
I mean, so to be clear, that's not why politicians care, but they don't care that they have voters deal with it. Yeah, they care that they get a shit ton of money from the oil lobby, and that to a greater degree that there's a good amount of America's foreign policy is built off of American companies controlling and American foreign policy having, I don't know, troops in the region of where big oil producers are. Like, that's why the green zone exists in Baghdad still, why we won't really ever officially leave Iraq ever. But
right, I mean, why
that is another part of not necessarily what inhibits climate change, but or not what inhibits climate change, but what is resistant for as far as oil interests are dealing with. But I don't know, there is power politics at play with control. Like, Russia is the best example probably of controlling how much power petrol states like our big enemies have. And if your economy happens to be based on oil, the ability for American producers or American foreign policy to put the squeeze on Saudi Arabia or the OPEC, the oil producers, to tank the price of oil to really hurt your economy, which I would almost guess that we had done with Russia in the past and will continue to do so, along with Iran and Venezuela, along with sanctions and stuff like that. So
yeah, I mean, there's also
that's the other part of oil being an important commodity for countries, that it's a really potent whip to hit our enemies against.
Yeah,
you look at Dubai, and this is how we need to start framing this debate. And once again, hitting on the economic opportunity of green energy is you see Dubai explode in its modern ways, That was all off of oil. So imagine if the U.S. was able to corner the market on green energy, they could probably turn in like about 4 or 5 different cities that are Dubai-ish. Like,
well, the problem is that America doesn't sit on the rare earth minerals to create a lot of the backbone for that, unlike the Gulf states.
that's true.
That's
Right.
like that's the fundamental problem with that. Yeah, exactly. Like all aside from like the political situation for all the Gulf states and like the probable and most definitely outright slavery that takes place in instances there, yeah, they do have pretty impressive like economies that are, you know, funded entirely off of oil, and tourism is a big part of their economy too. But
Right.
yeah, that you know that I'm pretty sure. What is it? Abu Dhabi has like the biggest skyscrapers in the world now. Like that's, I mean,
Yeah, Dubai has the Burj Khalifa or whatever it's called.
Burj Khalifa.
yeah.
We're going to Dubai on our honeymoon for 2 days.
Whenever that happens.
Yeah, right. Yeah, whenever we're able to get finally right. The biggest reason you can rent a Ferrari for like 2 hours or a Lamborghini in Dubai, and it's like not expensive. And I'm like, when am I ever going to be able to drive a Ferrari or a Lamborghini again? Ever?
Yeah,
might as well.
So to answer Ben on like the pipeline issue, I think the biggest like the whole issue on the Keystone pipeline is mostly to do with just like politics. Like, yeah, the Keystone pipeline could contribute energy independence, but the problem is that it's doubling down on old energy thinking. Like, that's the problem with my problem with the Keystone pipeline is we're investing a lot of money into sectors that we shouldn't be investing in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean,
well, it's to move Canadian / potentially Arctic oil down at some point. So it's, do you think at some point America's economy is going to need Canadian tar sand oil, or potentially when it starts to open up more, Canadian Arctic claimed oil?
See, that's my confusion.
Like that's the problem. That
like,
like,
are we relying
if you do think it's necessary, then like, what does that say about what the future is going to look like? That, oh yeah, the North Pole melted, done. And when that happens, we're still going to be pumping oil out of the North Sea. Like that seems to me kind of insane.
Yeah,
that's something I've been confused, and I don't really say a whole lot about the pipeline because there's only so many things I can take an interest in and try and inform myself on, and this is just one that I just don't find it very interesting for whatever reason. And like, are we reliant on that tar sand oil? That's, I mean, like I'm confused on why we need it, or is it actually strictly a?
The argument is it saves, or it's creating a lot of jobs.
Well, I mean,
it's stopping.
It's really industry heavy to fucking get the Canadian so it's like a good paying industry as a result of that. So like, and then the construction of pipelines and oil refinery and all that. Yeah, it's good shit.
So like, is the argument like building this pipeline creates a lot of jobs for people? Like, is that, am I understanding?
It also could, in the long run, create energy independence with, us in Canada instead of us paying Middle Eastern countries. And
I mean, we already are energy independent. That's like, we are the biggest oil producers in the world.
Yeah, so I guess that, I mean, if I'm just trying to wrap my head around, like, if building this pipeline creates jobs and that's a good thing, then like, why don't we, instead of building pipelines, why don't we build like high-speed rail lines instead? Like that.
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like that's kind of what I'm saying with like the foreign policy aspect of oil. It is a good, it's a good tool to have to be able to flood the market with a bunch of oil whenever you need to, whether we do it or OPEC does it. Yeah, sure. We could use that to build, I don't know what the dollar figure is that's gone into Keystone at this point, but sure. Yeah, that could be some sort of national program to build the electrical vehicles charging stations around the country, or more energy efficient rail lines between them. All infrastructure pays for itself. That's that is the best thing about infrastructure is that any sorts of dollars spent on infrastructure pay for themselves. It's a political decision on what you spend that on, though. So that's why, it really could go either way. That sure, yeah, either way, it's going to bring in more dollars than what it costs. But would you like to spend it on, I don't know, older technology or maybe a divergent path that you maybe don't want to go in or do want to go in, depending on what the
Yeah. Sounds like kind of diverged. I think we kind of hit on this, but we're gonna
just talk about climate change.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to read comments.
Can we get the Hyperloop? Can we get that into reality?
Please, God, no.
What's the Hyperloop? What?
It's this brainchild of Elon.
If you're
gets you from like LA to
all you had to say was Elon Musk, and I was done.
Yeah, that's how you know it won't work. When he's like, yeah, we'll just build tunnels everywhere to deal with this. Like, you want to build tunnels in Florida.
There's a reason why Miami doesn't have.
That's why I almost consider we might be doomed, because if that's our smartest guy, like that's our Einstein, we're in trouble.
The great thing about Elon Musk is like people think like he is just like the most brilliant person ever, and like really you break it down to it, he's Donald Trump with like a little bit of IQ. Like,
yeah,
he's a self-promoter, like just marketing genius, and
makes like 20,000 cars a year, and yeah,
just he knows how to market his businesses. So
yeah, like obviously he's a smart guy.
You add, I mean, I don't like what's he smart about?
I mean, like
it's not like he's going around building these batteries, or like he gets a lot of government subsidies to employ.
Sure, but what I'm saying is like, granted, this isn't saying a whole lot, but like on an intellectual level, he's far smarter than you or I. Like he's like a smart person. He's not as smart.
What makes you think that? What makes you think that?
I mean, his credentials seem to be pretty impressive. Like, doesn't he have? I mean,
so he created PayPal, is where he made his money.
Yeah.
So best case, he's a programmer.
He's a marketer. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm not saying that he's like has no skills, but like the reason he's built successful businesses is that he's marketed them and that they've gotten a lot of government subsidies. Like SpaceX, everybody's going on about SpaceX. Like SpaceX would not be where it is if NASA wouldn't have just been like, or if the government wouldn't have been like, hey, we're not really doing NASA, but we'll just give you all of our information to you so that you can kind of take the ball and run.
Well, I mean, and that's kind of goes back to, we've talked about this before on like people talk about how great the free market is, and the free market created, all these great things. Well, like, I mean, much of what the free market in Silicon Valley today have accomplished was off the backbone of like government investment into like semiconductors and stuff like that. And like, I mean, with on the medical field, it was the Human Genome Project that launched a lot of these medical and so I mean
internet.
The internet. Yeah, I mean,
is that important?
All I'm saying is
the government for the internet.
All I'm saying is like Elon's not writing the code to make SpaceX like ships like land themselves. He's not running the code that makes battery cars work. Like he's not doing that. Like He owns a business. He's making a lot of money doing it, and he's promoting his business. He's getting money from the government, and he's hiring the right people to do the job. That's all.
Right. Yeah, I'm not saying he's like this super genius. I'm saying like on a level compared to the average person, I think he's a pretty intelligent guy. I mean, there's a lot of people that aren't as successful as him.
He's not stupid, if that's what you think we're saying.
like,
he's not a stupid guy.
Like, he's a smart dude.
He's smart. Yes.
He's not this genius of our time that he's
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, if he is our Einstein, we're fucked.
Right.
Because like he's a smart guy, but he's not like
he couldn't even build a windshield that didn't break.
I guess what I'm trying to hammer home here is I don't want people to have the fallacy of like the reason why people thought Donald Trump was smart. And it's kind of the same fallacy of like people just seeing like wealth and success in business and saying, oh, he's smart. Well, no, he's also had a lot of fucking help. Like a lot.
Yeah. Can maybe we can wrap up on this. I was watching Fox Business today, and I watch a lot of Fox Business.
Thanks, Ben.
Charles Payne had Madison Cawthorn on there today, and there was one thing that stood out to me that just made me it was laugh out loud funny. Was Madison? First of all, he's just a stupid guy. Like, he's not like, we're talking about people who are smart, not smart. Like, I can just tell you that Madison Cawthorn is not an intelligent person. Like, he's just, I mean,
he's also a Centa millionaire. So
is he actually? I was trying to look into that.
He's really wealthy. He's not like, I over exaggerating, but he runs a real estate business. Basically.
Oh, okay. But so he was on Charles Payne today, and I'm trying to think of what they were even talking about. Oh, they were talking, it was Fox Business, so they were talking about the whole GameStop thing and hedge funds and Robinhood and this and that and the other thing. And Madison Cawthorn goes, well, I think what it really boils down to is that us, the Republican Party, we're the party of the commoner, the working man. And I'm like, you guys just elected a billionaire businessman that has made a career off of fucking over the commoner working man. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you're the party that had, if I'm not mistaken, the richest person ever to serve in the Senate, and Kelly Loeffler. Like what reality are you living in? Like, I just, for some reason, I was just like working and listening to it, and I was like, wait, what? Time out. Can we run that back, please?
So I did want to talk about this. It looks like Liz Cheney survived her vote, so that's kind of good.
Did you see that? Somebody on Twitter, I don't remember who it was. Some reporter said sources were telling him that Marjorie Taylor Greene got a standing ovation from about half of the conference when she spoke, and they're saying, like, I mean, my goodness, that lady. They had I didn't even realize how many conspiracy theories she has actually like touted. Brianna Keeler today on CNN had like a rundown of all the different things that she has like spouted or supported and on the conspiracy theory front, and like, holy shit, like it was like twice as many as I was even aware of.
My favorite thing, she abides by the old, and you'll remember this clip with Jake Tapper from the Alabama Senate runoff. She's one of these people that think that Omar is not a, officially elected representative because she took the oath of office on the Quran.
Oh yeah.
You're just like how dumb do you have to be?
That is a special kind of mind virus to think that. Like, I thought I've picked up some pretty bad mind viruses, but my God, that is.
Joe, who was the election official during the midterm? Was it the midterms? It might even have been before that in 2016 when like they had him on CNN and they were asking about like. And the guy was like, they didn't swear in on the Bible, so they weren't actually sworn in. And
are you listening to anything I just said?
Was that the Jake Tapper one?
Yeah, it was the
okay, yeah.
it was the Alabama runoff, right before Doug Jones and Roy Moore.
Oh yeah,
Jake
yeah.
Tapper had the duck it or something.
That's an all-time clip.
And he's like, I've seen President Trump had to take the oath on a Bible. And Jake Tapper's like, yeah, because he's Christian, so he chose the Bible. And just the look on the guy's face was just like, and then Jake was like, he seized on it right away. He's like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah, he just had no idea. Like, yeah, that was the. But no, like the Marjorie Taylor, like she thought, like I wasn't aware that she made comments in the midterms the last time around when, Omar won. Like when Omar and Tlaib she said that it was an Islamic invasion in Congress. Like, what the fuck? Like, you're a crazy person. Like, you are an actual crazy person.
You really break that down, and you think about like white privilege and how people make fun of like, the term white privilege. Who is Marjorie Taylor Greene to tell, like Tlaib's district and Omar's district too are like majority Muslim. So
yeah,
why
why
would you think it was anything like out of the realm of possibility that a Muslim community elects a Muslim representative? Like, talk about fucking white privilege and just not understanding anything.
Well, she also just ran this. This had some serious undertones to it too, but she ran this ad basically fundraising for her reelection, and it was like a donate to my campaign so that I can continue to fight the radical liberal media. And it was in the back. It was a picture of Ilhan Omar, and somebody on Twitter pointed out, it's like, why is she using Omar's picture on this? Like, she's not in the Democratic leadership that has anything to do with her being kicked off of committee assignments. Like, what? Like, it was just like she just like playing to that.
Oh yeah,
sect
yeah.
Of
this is the problem with this party is like it's not there's. And it's why they're losing so many Republicans, like from like their base, like true Republicans is like they're not arguing policy. This is not a policy party. This is just, hey, we're gonna say the most fucking radical shit you can think of, and if we piss off Democrats, it's a win for us. Like, that's all it is.
Yeah,
it's like it's a constant culture shock, just drum beating of, oh, I'm going to double down, and the press I get from me doing something stupid is fine. And that's why, like, people on Twitter saying, don't a platform, I agree with. Like, she's going to keep using the attention she's getting to just solidify her position in her district. I mean, that's basically what it is. That's what Trump did. I mean, there's no shock that Trump very possibly, I mean, the mathematics of it is overwhelming, but there's a overwhelming probability that Trump got votes due to his COVID response, which is just fucking mind-numbing. Like, just worms in your head. Like, oh, well, yeah, people voted for this guy because he didn't want to fucking do anything to stop the pandemic, and he didn't want to shut down. And, I don't even know how to explain that anymore.
What that reminded me, I saw this the Political Polls Twitter page had they posted a thing from Echelon Insights on polling for the 2024 National Republican primary. Pence was in the lead at 21%, and number 2 was Trump Jr. at 10%.
No way.
Holly came in with a strong 0%.
The Trump boys cannot run for office.
My pillow.
Jesus,
thank you.
The My Pillow guy Newsmax thing was
that took a serious nosedive after that. I did not think he was gonna.
If anybody,
he's just gonna lay off the fucking coke and the meth when he's on camera. Like,
if anybody saw our last episode, we took bets on who would, be the surprise candidate.
Wait,
And
Borg, didn't you say him?
when Borg said the My Pillow guy, and I was like, oh, like he's joking. And then Borg explained it, and I'm just like, I think you could see my face like while he was explaining it. I was like, holy shit, this is quite possible. Like,
My Pillow guy.
You messaged me and you said, Bork's scaring the shit out of me.
It's nothing worse than when you think something's a joke and then it starts like rationalizing with like the far right of what's going on right now.
Yeah, welcome to the last 4 years.
It depends. I mean, he'll struggle with the same thing if he can survive the next coming years to actually run in this election. Then you'll probably see the My Pillow guy. Oh, I mean, depends if Trump runs. If he doesn't die because he's an old man, then you'll see the My Pillow guy end up running.
I know we keep going back to this because
he's had COVID. I'm not saying someone is going to kill Donald Trump.
Yeah, Bork's not.
I'm just saying he's an old man.
He's just saying.
Like Joe Biden could die.
Yeah.
No,
like Biden or
Biden's doubling down right now.
Trump is an old, out of shape person who has had COVID. Like there are risks at that age that are inherently there. Just wanted to clarify that we're, not that it should need any clarification, but yeah. Well, I mean, we don't have to worry about Biden because he's going to step down and let Kamala take control here in about 3 months. So.
Yeah, Biden's eye is gonna pop out on camera one time. That'll just be it.
I keep going back to this, and it just drives me nuts. But like, I don't know how many times I have to hear like, "Oh, the Democrats' inside plan is to have Kamala take over," and it's just like, this lady couldn't make it to Iowa. It's not
like they're trying to. I mean, they're trying to make Kamala happen. That's, I mean, aside from all the other things, like Kamala is the person that they're trying to put forward to.
I don't think they were. I think they were cornered into choosing her. And now, yeah, like the vice president's always going to have that, like,
inside track for, yeah.
But like, anybody that thinks like a plurality of the Democratic Party is like, oh, this is our hand-picked person when she couldn't get to Iowa, like.
The person where she held a rally and said, "Are you ready for me as president?" and like nobody was excited. She's like, "Yes, you are," and then nobody was excited.
the old Jeb Bush. Please clap.
Yeah, please clap. Yeah. On that note, I think maybe we'll do a future episode on this. I think it would be I think it might be better to do a live stream just because I think we all know people that would be interested in this discussion, but I think we really need a discussion on libertarianism and why our issues with it and why to foreshadow a little bit, think it's a joke. I think that could be an interesting conversation.
Here's the thing. We're going to get into like a discussion of, I mean, we don't have to hit on it too much. Like the original idealism of libertarianism, like I get it. Just like I get like conservative values, but like the whole libertarian like mainstream movement was started with like people like Ron Paul and Rand Paul. And Rand Paul is not a fucking libertarian. He can say he is all he wants.
He's not. Right. No, you're right.
He's not a libertarian.
Yeah.
So like, if you want to be a libertarian for like the values of, hey, we believe in the free market and we believe everything should be, left out of the government's hand. Like, I can almost honor that to a little bit. I disagree with it 100%. But like, the problem with libertarianism is nobody that says they're a libertarian with any public exposure or platform isn't a libertarian.
Yeah, so, my experience is people who say they're libertarians are Republicans that don't want to say they're Republicans. Like, that's my experience with libertarians.
or libertarian, or people that are Republicans but are just so grossly like turned off by Republicans' social like platforms. That's where I find my most libertarian, acquaintances, is just like people that are Republicans, but just like, dude, if two guys want to get married, why is the government, stipulating that,
Yeah. The repulsiveness of the Republican Party on social issues is where libertarians find a lot of their own.
I'm just here for every 4 years, like the libertarian candidate, like my Facebook timeline of people saying that this is the person that we all need to rally behind, and this is just cracks me up.
My problem, just finishing up, another problem with libertarianism is like, if you think you're a libertarian and you somehow end up voting for Donald Trump, like, you're not a libertarian. So, like, there's no way you, like, if you believe in core libertarian issues, that you can say you're a libertarian and then end up getting to Donald Trump.
I mean, the problem with that is that there's a lot of like people who claim to be things and then find a way to vote a certain way.
Yeah.
Anybody can rationalize.
I mean, yeah, exactly. There's like a lot of issues that like you could find a thread of what he was saying, I'm sure, and be like, this is close enough. Like, if so-and-so signs off on him, then yeah, this is better than, I mean, and that's the other thing. Yeah, and that's the other thing that you back up against is like, well, what are they going to do? Vote for someone else? Not like, I mean, the alternative is to not vote, which sure, yeah, but that doesn't really affect one way or another or the other as far as like libertarian values are concerned. But like, if you were to vote, what are you going to vote for Biden? Probably not.
From a Democrat standpoint, the Republican Party fracturing into, the having kind of a split party between libertarians and Republicans is cool by me. Go ahead, guys. Like, split that vote.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I'm sure the GOP would say the same thing. Like, okay, you're gonna have like your centrist Democrat, your social Democrats, then you're like your leftists or whatever. So, like, I mean, there are like compromises that are made on both sides that bring the more quote unquote extreme edges of both sides into what party that they end up lining up with.
Yeah.
Generally it boils down to, I think, and unfortunately, because the alternative seems to be more, I don't know, terrifying or more tough to think about than necessarily the vision of the party that's being reconciled with.
Sure.
That's how libertarians, they don't actually expect Trump to do anything. They just don't. He just won't make things too much worse. Although I'm not sure, depending on certain things with like government reach, I don't know if they would say that he accomplished that. I don't know what the mind palace of certain or all the Republican ideology voters are like anymore, or ever to say that.
Yeah, it's hard to say that. I guess if you look at precedents, I think it's hard to say, just checking myself here, it's hard to say that only libertarians will fracture Republican votes, because pretty much the most mainstream libertarian candidate that we've had in the last 20 years probably ended up stealing more votes from Hillary Clinton than they did Donald Trump. So, I mean, once again, you never know. I mean, people identify.
I don't think that's accurate at all. But
you think Gary Johnson took more votes from Donald Trump than he did Hillary Clinton?
I don't think anybody that voted for Gary Johnson could ever be considered someone that would have voted for Hillary Clinton.
I disagree with that. We can argue that. I can find data or try to find data that supports my conclusion. That one's going to be kind of hard, but I would say
we'll maybe we'll revisit that. Thanks, Ben, for chiming in and giving us some questions to talk about as I was trying to figure out my camera situation and I wasn't really paying attention. So, cool. This is our second live stream, so we'll do more of these, I think. We need is our third? Oh yeah, third. We did the inauguration. You're right. Second one with all three of us though. So, So
Bork couldn't handle the moderate Democrat being inaugurated. So
I celebrated it by work. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do another one of these soon. But for now, it's time for some PGA 2K. Time for Joe to get wrecked. Bork, you got to get a PlayStation, man.
I know. Badly.
Hey, which one of you is paying for my PlayStation 5 to play college football?
I mean, it's not coming out for like 2 years, so it doesn't really matter.
You kidding me?
Yeah, they haven't even announced a. It's gonna be at least a year before it comes out.
Oh, yeah. I'll start saving my money.
Dude, yeah.
Yeah, I'm in no rush.
By that point, you should be able to buy a PS5, no issues. So.
But all right, thanks for everybody that listened. Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it.
Xbox sucks.
We'll let you know when we're gonna do another one of these. Appreciated the questions. All right, thanks for tuning in to the Moose Club. We will catch you guys later.
Oh no, he just closed himself out. He didn't end the stream.
It's live.
This kid.
Talk to you later, Bork.
Yeah, later.
What?
Nope.
What'd you say? Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I mean, we're still live.
No, we're not. I turned it off. Oh, no, I didn't turn it off. Now I'm turning it off.